The auction of shame. The marketplace was loud, filled with bright alien lights and cruel voices. Merchants shouted about rare slaves, warriors, and workers, but when the guards dragged a tiny alien girl onto the stage, the crowd burst into laughter. She was small, thinner than a child, with wide eyes full of fear. Her wrists were tied with rough chains, too heavy for her tiny frame. The auctioneer raised his voice. "A rare female, strong bloodline." But the crowd only laughed harder. "She looks like a pet, not a worker," one shouted. "Too small to clean a floor," another added. The girl's cheeks burned with shame, her head lowered. She knew this moment would come. She had been passed from place to place like garbage. Now she was here, being priced like a broken tool. The auctioneer tried again, his tone desperate. "Who will start the bidding? 10 credits." The crowd jeered, no hands rose. 5 credits, he shouted, sweat rolling down his face. Still silence, except for cruel laughter echoing through the hall. The girl trembled, her heart pounding. She thought, "No one will ever want me. I will be left here until I die." Her small fingers clutched the chain, and she wished she could vanish. The auctioneer slammed his staff on the ground. 3 credits. She is young. She can be trained. Someone from the crowd yelled, "Not worth even 1 scrap." The hall filled with roaring laughter. The girl felt tears in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She had learned long ago that tears only made the crowd laugh harder. The auctioneer's voice cracked with frustration. 2 credits, 1 credit. Somebody take her." Silence spread. The girl felt her knees weaken. She thought she would collapse. Then, a sound broke the silence. A single hand rose from the back of the hall. The laughter stopped instantly. All eyes turned. It was a human, tall and strong, standing in the sea. Haddos, his hand was steady, his face calm. "I will take her," he said, his voice deep and clear. Gasps spread through the marketplace. The alien stared at him like he had lost his mind. The auctioneer blinked in disbelief. You? A human? You want this?" The man's eyes did not move from the girl. "Yes, she is mine now." The girl's chest tightened. She could not believe what she heard. Her chains rattled as she lifted her head to see him. He looked at her not with disgust, not with laughter, but with something she had never seen before. Calm strength. The auctioneer, still shaken, stammered, "Then pay the credit and she is yours." The man stepped forward, placing not 1 but several credits on the table. "More than enough," he said. "Do not question me again." The crowd murmured, some angry, some confused. Why would a human waste his money on that runt? He must be mad. "Maybe he has a strange taste," another whispered with a laugh. But the man ignored them all. He walked to the stage, his boots heavy against the stone floor. The girl shrank back in fear, uncertain if this was another trick. But when he reached her, he didn't strike her. He knelt down and unlocked her chains. The weight fell from her wrists, and for a moment, she didn't understand what freedom even felt like. Her arms trembled, the skin red and raw where the chains had cut. The man looked at her and said softly, "Stand, you are coming with me now." The girl's lips parted, but no words came. She wanted to ask why, but her voice was too weak. Her legs shook as she stepped forward. The human offered his hand, not forcing, just waiting. The crowd continued to whisper, "Look, she's afraid of him. He'll regret this by morning." The auctioneer shrugged, taking the money, glad to be rid of her. The girl looked at the human's hand. Her heart raced, fear mixing with confusion. No one had ever offered her a hand before. Every hand she had known had struck her, chained her, or pushed her away. But his hand was steady, waiting, not rushing. After a long breath, she placed her small, trembling fingers in his palm. His grip was firm, warm, not crushing. He pulled her gently to her feet. The hall fell into silence. Everyone watched as the human led the tiny alien girl off the stage. No one laughed now, no one shouted. The only sound was the chain links falling to the floor. Her heart whispered a question she could not speak out loud. Why me? Why did he choose me? As the human walked through the crowd, his hand never let go of hers. The alien stared, some with anger, some with disbelief, but the man did not care. His step was strong, his hand steady, and the girl, still trembling, followed him, her mind drowning in fear and wonder. For the first time in her life, someone had raised a hand for her, and that hand had not come down. The night outside was cold, but as she walked beside him, the chains gone from her wrists, she felt something strange for the first time, a tiny spark of warmth buried deep inside her chest. A spark she was too afraid to believe in, but could not ignore, the human's defiance. The marketplace was still buzzing long after the human had left with the girl. Whispers floated through the alien crowd, voices sharp with disbelief and scorn, a human raising his hand for a tiny slave. Madness, they said. Some called it foolishness, some called it weakness, and some laughed cruelly. But the human, his name was Jaren, walked with steady steps. He kept his hand wrapped firmly around the girl's wrist, not to hurt her, but to guide her through the maze of alleys leading out of the auction square. The girl's small feet stumbled to keep up, her eyes fixed on the ground. Her heart screamed with questions. Why me? What does he want? Why did he pay more than asked? Every time she glanced at him, his face was calm, unreadable. No hint of cruelty, no mocking smile. Behind them, the auction hall doors slammed. Laughter still echoed in the distance, the kind of laughter that stung like knives. The girl flinched at the sound. Jaren noticed and tightened his grip slightly, steadying her steps. They laugh because they do not understand, he said, his voice deep and firm. The girl blinked, shocked that he spoke to her at all. Her lips parted, but no words came. She had forgotten how to speak freely. Every word she had ever said had been punished, so she stayed silent. The streets were dirty, lined with glowing alien signs and vendors calling out for trade. As they walked, eyes followed them. Some aliens pointed, whispering, "Look at that human with the runt. Maybe he bought her as a joke. He'll throw her away by morning." Each word felt like a stone thrown at the girl. Her chest ached, shame burning inside. She wanted to pull away, to hide, but Jaren did not let go. Instead, he walked straighter, his steps louder. His presence forced others to step aside. Finally, they reached a small inn at the edge of the district. The innkeeper, a wide alien with 4 eyes, sneered as he saw them. "No pets allowed," he said coldly, pointing at the girl. The girl's stomach twisted, expecting Jaren to turn, but instead, Jaren placed heavy credits on the counter. "She is not a pet," he said, his tone sharp. "She is with me. Give us a room." The innkeeper's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. His mouth opened to argue, but the weight of the credits silenced him. He pushed a key across the counter with a mutter. "Fool human," he whispered under his breath, but too low to argue further. Jaren led the girl upstairs, the wooden steps creaking beneath their feet. The girl's chain still clinked lightly, even though most were removed. She felt the stairs from downstairs burning into her back. Everyone thought the human was insane, and maybe he was. The room was small but clean, with a bed, a chair, and a tiny lamp. The girl froze at the sight of the bed. She had never been allowed near one, only cold floors and cages. Her heart beat faster, unsure if she should even step inside. Jaren closed the door behind them, placing the key on the table. He finally released her wrist. For the first time since the auction, she was free to move. She rubbed her raw skin, still red from the chains, but she stayed near the door, afraid to step closer. Jaren looked at her with steady eyes. "They think you are worthless," he said slowly. "They are wrong." The words hit her like a thunderstrike. Her eyes widened, her throat tightened. No one had ever said she was worth anything, not once in her life. She shook her head, whispering the only words she could manage. "No, not true. Too small. Too weak." Her voice cracked, rusty from silence. Jaren knelt down so his eyes met hers. "Small does not mean weak. Weakness is giving up. You are still standing." The girl trembled, not knowing what to do with his words. Her people had called her cursed, useless, a mistake. Yet this human spoke as if her size, her weakness, were nothing to be ashamed of. Before she could answer, loud voices outside rose. The laughter of aliens echoed up the street, cruel and mocking. "They'll come," Jaren muttered under his breath. "They won't forgive me for raising my hand." The girl's stomach dropped. She realized this man had put himself in danger because of her. Her heart ached, confused and scared. She whispered, "Why? Why risk me?" Jaren's eyes locked on hers. "Because no one else would," he said simply. "Because someone had to." The girl felt her knees weaken, her chest filled with a strange, sharp warmth. For the first time, she felt a tiny thread of safety wrapping around her heart. A fragile thing, but real. The voices outside grew louder. The aliens laughed, promising that the human would regret his choice. The girl trembled, but Jaren stood, his shadow tall in the small room. He moved to the window, watching though. "The dark streets below. They can laugh all they want," he said. "They will learn that my hand will not come down." The girl's breath caught. She hugged herself, standing near the door. For the first time in her life, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone. But as the voices outside faded into the night, she couldn't stop the question in her heart. How long until he regrets me too? The first night, The room was quiet, but the silence felt heavy. The girl stood near the door, her small hands pressed against her arms. She did not move, afraid that if she stepped closer, the human would reveal his true reason for buying her. Jaren placed his travel bag on the chair and opened it. Inside were small supplies, dried food, a flask of water, a folded blanket. The girl's eyes followed every movement, her body tense, her stomach growled, a sharp sound in the silence. She turned her face away in shame, but Jaren noticed. Without a word, he took out a piece of bread. He placed it on the table and stepped back. "Eat," he said simply. The girl froze, staring at the food. Her heart beat fast. Is this a trick? Will he hit me if I touch it? Her body was weak with hunger, but fear held her still. Jaren did not rush her. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the floor. Minutes passed before the girl slowly walked forward. Her small hands shook as she picked up the bread. She took a tiny bite, expecting pain, expecting laughter, but nothing came. The bread was soft, real food, not scraps or rotten pieces. Her eyes stung and she ate slowly, almost like each bite was a dream she might wake from. When she finished, Jaren gave her the flask of water. She drank quickly, the cool liquid running down her throat. It was the first time in years she had eaten without someone mocking her, the first time no one slapped the food from her hands. But with the relief came fear. Whoa. Was he being kind? What did he want in return? Her small fingers tightened around the flask. Jaren watched her quietly. "You are safe here," he said in a low voice. "You do not have to fear me." The girl flinched. Safe? No place had ever been safe. She wanted to believe him, but her heart whispered warnings. The bed creaked as Jaren leaned back. "You should rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be harder." He pulled out the blanket from his bag and set it on the mattress. Then he stretched out on the chair instead, as if he meant to sleep sitting up. The girl blinked in confusion. She had thought he would force her onto the floor, or worse, but instead he gave her the bed. Her chest tightened, her breath shaky. She stood still, unsure. Her people had taught her to expect cruelty, not kindness. She whispered, her voice weak. "Why? Bed? For me?" Jaren's eyes opened slightly. "Because you need it more," he said. "I can sleep anywhere." The words struck her. She stared at the bed, then at him. Finally, with slow, trembling steps, she walked closer. Her small body climbed onto the edge of the mattress. She sat curled tightly, ready to leap away if he moved suddenly. The blanket was warm, soft against her cold skin. Her heart pounded in her chest. She pulled the fabric close. For the first time, she wasn't lying on a stone floor or in a metal cage. It felt unreal. Jaren leaned back, closing his eyes. He didn't speak again. The girl's eyes stayed on him. She couldn't understand him, couldn't trust him yet. But she saw no cruelty in his face. Only weariness, like a man who had carried too much weight for too long. The lamp flickered, shadows dancing across the walls. Outside, the streets were still alive with laughter and voices. The girl shivered. She thought about the merchants, the auctioneer, the cruel eyes that had stared at her. If they came, would Jaren fight for her again? She hugged the blanket tighter. Her eyelids grew heavy, but her mind refused to rest. She whispered into the dark so softly that maybe even he didn't hear. "Why me?" Jaren's voice came, quiet but steady. "Because everyone deserves a chance." Her chest ached. She turned her face into the blanket, hiding the tears she had fought so long to keep inside. Hours passed. The girl drifted between sleep and waking. Every time she stirred, she checked if Jaren was watching her. But he was always still, his breathing slow, his eyes closed. He had given her the bed and kept his distance. At last, her body gave in. The exhaustion of years pressed down on her. Her small frame relaxed against the blanket. Her eyes closed fully. For the first time in her life, she slept without fear of being struck. Yet even in her dreams, she felt uncertainty. Was this real? Would it last? Or would morning come, and with it, the truth of his choice? The night deepened. The streets outside grew quiet. In that small room, two lives rested side by side. One, a tiny alien girl who had never known kindness. The other, a human who had raised his hand when no one else dared. And though the girl did not yet believe it, the first thread of something new had begun to weave itself around her heart. A fragile thread, but one that could grow stronger with each passing night. The mockery continues. Morning came slowly, light spilling through the thin cracks of the wooden window. The girl stirred in the bed, her small body wrapped in the blanket. For a moment she forgot where she was, the softness under her back, the warmth covering her. It felt like a dream. But then her eyes opened and saw the human sitting in the chair, awake, watching the window. Reality rushed back. Her chest tightened, fear returning. She pushed herself up quickly, ready for commands, ready for anger. But Jaren only turned his head, his voice steady. "You slept," he said. The girl froze, confused. It wasn't a question, it was a statement, almost gentle. She didn't answer. Her throat was dry, her voice still broken from years of silence. Jaren stood and stretched, pulling on his coat. "We leave soon," he said. "The marketplace won't forget what I did." The girl's stomach twisted. She knew he was right. The crowd would not forgive. They would laugh louder, sharper, and maybe worse. He placed a small piece of dried food on the table. "Eat. You'll need strength." Her eyes flickered to the food, then to him. Every kindness he gave only made her more confused. But hunger won, and she ate slowly, her small fingers trembling. When they left the inn, the streets were already alive. Merchants shouted from stalls, alien voices rising over one another. The smell of strange spices filled the air, mixed with smoke and dust. The girl walked close to Jaren, her head bowed. Whispers followed them like shadows. "There's the fool human," one alien laughed. "He paid for the runt," another sneered. "She's smaller than my pet lizard." The crowd chuckled, the sound sharp and cruel. The girl's cheeks burned, her small hands curled into fists. Her steps grew slower, shame pulling her down. She wanted to disappear. She wanted Jaren to let her go so the laughter would stop. But Jaren did not slow. His steps were firm, his eyes fixed ahead. He ignored every word, every laugh. When a merchant shouted loudly, "Human! Want to sell her back? I'll give you one scrap for the runt." The crowd roared with laughter. The girl's stomach dropped, expecting Jaren to stop, but instead, he turned his head just enough, his voice cold. "She is not for sale." The laughter stumbled, fading into uneasy whispers. The merchant sneered, but did not answer again. The girl's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken for her before. No one had ever refused to throw her away. Still, the mockery continued as they walked. Some aliens spat near their feet, others muttered insults. Every sound made the girl shrink further. Her people had always taught her she was worthless. Now the whole marketplace confirmed it. Her chest ached, shame and fear fighting inside her. Jaren noticed. He slowed his steps, leaning down just enough to speak quietly. "Let them laugh," he said. "They don't matter." The girl blinked, staring at him in shock. Didn't matter. Their voices had always mattered. They had always defined her, crushed her, reminded her of what she was. Yet Jaren spoke as if their laughter was nothing but air. His calm made her heart tremble. She wanted to believe him, but her fear was stronger. They turned down a narrow street, quieter than the busy stalls, but even here, they weren't safe from eyes. Two alien boys spotted them and snickered. "Look at the human's toy," one said. The other added, "Maybe he bought her to carry in his pocket." The laughter was sharp. The girl stopped walking, shame freezing her legs. Her chest felt tight, her eyes burning with unshed tears. Jaren noticed immediately. He stopped too, looking at her small, trembling form. The boys kept laughing, throwing stones at the ground near her feet. The girl's body flinched with every sound. She waited for Jaren to scold her, to leave her behind. Instead, Jaren stepped forward. He stood tall, his shadow stretching across the boys. His voice was sharp, cutting through the laughter. "Go," he said. The boys blinked, their grins faltering. The human's eyes were steady, hard as steel. Something in his presence made them step back. They muttered curses, but turned and ran. The girl looked up at him, her lips parting. She wanted to speak, to thank him, but no words came. Her throat closed, her heart racing. All she could do was follow again as he continued walking. They finally reached a quieter place near the outer walls of the city. Jaren found a spot to rest under the shade of an old structure. He sat down, setting his pack beside him. The girl stayed standing, her hands pressed tightly together. The silence stretched, filled with the distant noise of the market. In Ollie, Jaren broke it. "You are stronger than you think," he said, not looking at her. "You kept walking while they laughed. That is strength." Her chest tightened, tears threatening to fall. She shook her head, whispering, "Not strong. Weak. Too small." Jaren turned his eyes to her. "Small doesn't mean worthless," he said firmly. "You'll see that soon enough." The girl lowered her head. She wanted to believe him, but years of pain, years of laughter and insults weighed heavy. Still, something in his voice planted a small seed inside her heart, something new, something fragile. As the sun moved lower, shadows grew long across the streets, but hidden eyes were watching from afar. A group of merchants whispered to one another. "The human knows something. Maybe the runt has hidden value. We should take her back. Plans formed in the dark. Danger was closer than either the girl or the human knew. The girl sat at last, pulling her knees to her chest. Her eyes flickered to Jaren. For the first time, she wondered, if danger came, would he still keep his hand raised? The threat. Night returned to the city, the streets glowing faintly with scattered lamps and neon alien signs. The inn-room was quiet once more, but this time, a heavy tension filled the air. The girl sat near the bed, hugging her knees, her wide eyes staring at the locked door. Jaren sat by the table, sharpening the edge of a small human blade, his face calm but watchful. He had felt it all day, the stares, the whispers, the weight of unseen eyes following them. The merchants had not given up. They wanted her back, not because they cared for her, but because the human's choice made them suspicious. If he raised his hand for the runt, maybe she was worth more than they thought. The girl shifted uneasily, her small voice breaking the silence. They will come, she whispered. Jaren looked up, his steady eyes locking on hers. Yes, he said, they will come. Her chest tightened, fear rising like fire inside her. She curled tighter, whispering, they always come, always hurt. Jaren set the blade down and leaned forward. His voice was calm, almost steady enough to hide the storm outside. They will not touch you, he said. The girl's heart pounded. She wanted to believe, but every memory screamed the opposite. No one had ever protected her before. No one had ever stood between her and pain. The night grew darker. The sounds of footsteps echoed faintly outside. Shadows moved under the door crack. The girl's body stiffened, trembling. She grabbed the blanket like a shield. The doorknob rattled, once, twice. Her breath caught in her throat. Then, crack! The wood splintered as the door burst open. 3 aliens rushed in, their faces twisted with greed. One carried a staff, another a hooked blade, the last one thick and strong. The girl let out a small cry and backed into the corner. Her heart screamed not again, but Jaren was already on his feet. The first alien sneered, pointing at the girl. Step aside, human, she's ours. Jaren's jaw tightened, his hand gripping his blade. No, he said, his voice cold as stone. The alien laughed. Why protect trash? She's worth nothing. Jaren didn't answer with words. He moved, fast, his blade flashing in the lamplight. The staff-wielding alien blocked, sparks flying. The others rushed forward. The girl pressed herself against the wall, her small body shaking violently. Her mind screamed that Jaren would fall, that he would abandon her, but he didn't. The fight was brutal, the room too small for escape. Jaren swung, cutting the blade from one attacker's hand. The strong alien grabbed him by the arm, slamming him against the table. The girl cried out, "Stop!" But her voice was swallowed by the chaos. Jaren gritted his teeth, slamming his fist into the alien's jaw. The brute stumbled, dazed. The staff cracked across Jaren's shoulder, pain flashing across his face. But he did not let go of his blade. He pushed forward, driving the attackers back step by step. The girl's heart raced, her small hands covering her ears. Tears blurred her vision. She had seen fights before, seen men fall, seen bodies broken. Every time she had been left alone again, her voice whispered inside, "He will leave. He will leave like the others." But when the last alien charged for her, Jaren moved faster. He stood between her and the strike, his blade cutting through the attacker's arm. The alien screamed, stumbling back, blood splattered across the floor. The other two cursed, dragging their wounded partner toward the door. "This isn't over, human," one spat. They vanished into the night, leaving behind the smell of sweat and blood. The room was destroyed, the table broken, the lamp knocked sideways. Jaren stood in the middle, his breath heavy, blood on his arm. The girl stared at him, frozen. He had fought, he had bled, but he had not stepped aside. Her chest ached, her heart pounding painfully. He turned, his eyes softening when he saw her trembling. "They won't take you," he said quietly. The words hit her harder than the sounds of the fight. Her tears spilled freely, her body shaking. She wanted to speak, but no sound came. He knelt down in front of her, lowering his blade, his voice steady, almost gentle. "No chains, no cages. As long as I stand, they will not touch you." Her small hands reached out, gripping his sleeve tightly, her tears wetting the fabric. For the first time, she clung to someone, not out of fear, but out of fragile hope. The night was not silent anymore. Down in the street, voices still whispered, merchants plotting again. The girl buried her face in the blanket, her body trembling. But inside her chest, something shifted. For the first time in her life, someone had risked blood for her. Someone had not stepped aside. And though fear still lived in her heart, a new thought burned quietly inside her. Maybe I am worth something. If he thinks so, outside the city slept, but inside. That small room, a bond had been forged in blood and defiance, a bond that the merchants, the crowd, the entire city could not easily break. The secret power, the room was quiet after the fight, but the silence was not peace. The air still smelled of sweat and blood. Broken wood lay scattered on the floor. The girl sat curled on the bed, her wide eyes fixed on Jaren's arm. Blood ran down from a deep cut on his shoulder, staining his clothes. Her small voice trembled. You hurt? Jaren pulled a strip of cloth from his bag, wrapping the wound tightly. It will heal, he said, calm as always. But the girl's chest tightened, her fingers gripping the blanket. Why? Why would he bleed for her? She whispered again, barely audible. They will come back. More of them. Jaren's eyes lifted, sharp and steady. Yes, they will not give up. But neither will I. Her heart shook. How could he say it so simply? The girl lowered her gaze, her small hands trembling. Memories crashed inside her, faces of her people, voices full of anger. You are cursed, they had said. Too small, too strange, too dangerous. They had cast her out, mocked her, laughed when she cried. Even in the marketplace, no one wanted her. But now, for the first time, someone had fought to keep her. Her lips parted, her voice soft as a breath. There is reason. They hate me. Jaren looked at her, waiting, silent, but patient. The girl shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Not normal. My kind fear me. I see things, feel things others cannot. Her small hand lifted, trembling. She closed her eyes, and suddenly the broken lamp in the corner flickered. The faint glow inside the glass pulsed as if alive. Jaren's eyes narrowed with surprise, but he said nothing. The girl whispered, I sense energy, life, light. I can hear it, like whispers. She opened her eyes again, tears spilling. My people, call it curse. They say it makes me dangerous. They threw me away. Her voice broke. They said no one should keep me. No one should love me. The words hung in the air like knives. Jaren stood silent, his face unreadable. The girl curled into herself, ashamed. Now he knew. Now he would see her for what she was, useless, cursed, unwanted. But instead, Jaren spoke firmly. They were wrong. The girl gasped softly, lifting her head. His voice was steady, sharper than the blade he carried. What you have is not a curse. It is a gift. Her breath caught. Gift? No one had ever used that word for her. She shook her head, whispering, No, no gift. Only pain. But Jaren's eyes did not waver. Pain only comes because they feared what they could not understand. He stepped closer, kneeling so his eyes met hers. Power is never the curse. Fear is. The girl's tears fell faster, her chest aching. She wanted to believe him, but her heart was chained by years of cruelty. Her voice cracked. Why? Why do you not laugh? Jaren's answer was simple. Because I see strength where others see weakness. The girl pressed her small hands against her face. Her body trembled with emotions she had never felt. Her secret, her deepest shame, was now known. But instead of scorn, she found acceptance. Before she could speak again, noise stirred outside. Whispers, the sound of many feet moving in the night. The girl's head snapped toward the window. Her senses flared. She could feel them. Shapes of energy moving closer, wrapping around the inn like shadows. Her eyes widened. They come, she whispered. Jaren stood, gripping his blade. How many? The girl trembled, her senses sharp. She closed her eyes. 5. No, more. 7. They surround us. Jaren's jaw tightened, but he did not falter. Her gift had already proven true. She could sense what eyes could not see. The girl's heart raced, fear clawing at her chest. I only bring danger, she whispered. Jaren shook his head. No, you bring warning. Without you, I would be blind tonight. The girl stared at him, stunned. No one had ever spoken of her like that. Her voice shook. But they will not stop. The Lord himself will come for me. Jaren's grip tightened on the blade. Then let him come, he said coldly. They will learn I do not put down my hand. Her throat tightened, her body trembling. She whispered, "Why? Why still protect me?" Jaren turned to her, his expression fierce but steady. "Because you are not trash. Because you are not a curse. Because you are worth protecting." The girl's chest burned, her small body shaking. She pressed her hands to her face, hiding the tears she could no longer stop. Her voice broke. "No one ever said that. No one." Jaren stepped closer, his hand hovering near her shoulder but not forcing. His voice was calm. "You will hear it as many times as it takes until you believe it." The girl's tears soaked the blanket, her heart a storm of fear, confusion, and something new, something she had never felt before. Hope. Outside, the shadows of enemies moved closer. The city whispered with danger, but inside the room, the human and the tiny alien girl shared a moment that changed everything. Her secret was no longer her shame, it was her strength, and with him beside her, she no longer felt so small, never letting go. The night was heavy, the streets outside crawling with danger. The girl sat on the bed, her small body trembling. She could feel them, shadows moving closer, like a storm pressing against the walls. Her gift whispered of sharp weapons, greedy hearts, and one darker presence, colder than all the rest. Jaren stood near the door, blade ready in his hand. His body was wounded, his clothes torn, but his stance was strong. The girl whispered, her voice barely a breath. "He comes. The Lord, the one who owns them all." Her wide eyes filled with fear. "He will take me. No one stops him." Jaren turned, his God. "So steady. I will," he said. The girl shook her head fiercely, tears burning. "You cannot. He is stronger. He has many. You will die because of me." Her voice cracked, her small fists clutching the blanket, but Jaren's voice cut through her panic, calm and unshaken. "Then I die standing. But I will never let go." The words silenced her, her heart pounding like a drum. He meant it, every word, and for the first time, someone had chosen her fully, not as property, not as a mistake, but as someone worth dying for. The door shook violently, then burst open. Figures filled the room, armored guards with cruel eyes. Behind them stepped the alien lord, tall and draped in black, his voice sharp as steel. "You," he sneered at Jaren, "you dare steal what belongs to me?" His eyes shifted to the girl, filled with hunger and greed. "She is not yours to keep. She is mine." The girl froze, her chest tight. The words dragged her back to every memory of chains, every voice that told her she was worthless. But Jaren stepped forward, blocking the Lord's gaze with his body. "She belongs to no one," he said. The Lord's lips curled in amusement. "A human's pride," he mocked. "Let us see how long it lasts." The guards lunged forward, weapons flashing. Jaren met them head-on, his blades slicing through the air. The room erupted into chaos. The girl pressed herself back, her heart screaming with fear. But her gift flared, bright and sharp. She could see it, the flow of energy around the guards, the weak points in their strikes, the hidden rhythm of their attacks. Her voice broke free. "Left, behind you." Jaren moved with her warning, his blade catching a strike he would not have seen. The guard stumbled, cut down. Another lunged, but she cried, "High! The blade comes high!" Jaren ducked, his strike finding the attacker's side. Her power guided him, her small voice cutting through the storm. Together they fought, her fear melted into something fierce. For the first time, her gift was not a curse. It was life, it was hope, and Jaren trust. Edit fully, never doubting her words. The alien lord growled, his sharp voice echoing, "Enough!" He raised his hand, energy crackling in the air. The girl gasped, feeling the force of it pressing against her chest. He was too strong, stronger than all the others. Her voice trembled. "Jaren, he will kill you." But Jaren stepped forward, blood running from fresh wounds, his grip firm on the blade. "If he wants you, he will have to take me first." The girl's tears fell, her heart burning. No one had ever stood so firmly for her. No one had ever raised a hand and kept it raised. The Lord unleashed his power, a surge of energy tearing through the room. The girl screamed, her gift bursting inside her. She felt the flow of his strength, the hidden cracks, the unstable rhythm. Her voice cut through the chaos. "Now! Strike now!" Jaren moved like lightning, his blade cut through the Lord's guard, striking deep. The alien roared, stumbling back, his power breaking apart like shattered glass. The remaining guards fled, fear spreading as their master fell. The room went silent except for Jaren's heavy breathing. He lowered his blade, his body trembling but unbroken. The girl rushed forward, her tiny hands gripping his arm. Her tears soaked his sleeve as she whispered, You did not let go." Jaren looked down at her, his voice quiet but steady. "I raised my hand once," he said, "and I will never put it down." Her heart burst with emotions she had never known. Safety, warmth, belonging. For the first time she believed. The crowd outside had gathered, drawn by the noise. They stared as Jaren stepped out into the street, the tiny alien girl holding tightly to his hand. The same people who had laughed at her now fell silent. They saw the human, bloodied but unyielding, and they saw the girl, no longer trembling, her small body pressed close to him. Whispers spread. The hum, and fought for her. He faced the Lord and lived. Maybe. She is not worthless after all. The girl heard the whispers, but for once they did not cut her because she no longer needed their voices.